This is the defendant, Sharon Olds. She is being accused of her poetry not actually being poetry. This is the plaintiff, Robert Kardashian. He is accusing Sharon Olds of first-degree poetry murder. This courtroom is now in session, and we will begin with Mr. Kardashian and his opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Today I am accusing Ms. Sharon Olds on account of first-degree murder on poetry, and my first evidence is shown in the poem, The First Thanksgiving.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. First Thanksgiving by Sharon Olds. When she comes back from college, I will see the skin of her upper arms, cool, matte, glossy. She will hug me, my old soupy chest against her breasts. I will smell her hair. She will sleep in this apartment, her sleep like an untamed, good object, like a soul in a body. She came into my life, the second great arrival, fresh from the other world, which lay from within him, within me. Those nights I fed her to sleep, week after week, the moon rising and setting, and waxing, whirling, over the months, in a steady blur around our planet. Now she doesn't need love like that. She has had it. She will walk in glowing, we will talk, and then, when she's fast asleep, I'll exult to have her in that room again, behind that door. As a child, I caught bees by the wings and held them some seconds, looked into their wild faces, listened to them sing, then tossed them back into the air. I remember the moment the arc of my toss swerved, and they entered the corrected curve of their departure.
Thank you. Sharon Olds, what is your take on your poem here?
Well, I believe that the example that she's chosen is not a good one due to the fact that this talks about a loving relationship between a mother and a daughter. There's nothing in particular that is about me in general that you can find, and on top of that, it talks about emotions that are very, very nice to see in a poem, such as in line 10, when I say, those nights I fed her to sleep, week after week, the moon rising and setting and waxing, whirling over the months. This just talks about an experience of a mother and how she felt. There's nothing about me in particular, as I may say again, Judge. And that's where I rest my case for this poem, to be honest with you.
All right, thank you. We'll take that into consideration. Next, Mr. Kardashian, do you have another example you would like to give?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do, Your Honor. My next example is the death of Marilyn Monroe.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you. The ambulance man touched her cold body, lifted it, heavy as iron, onto the stretcher, tried to close the mouth, close the eyes, tie the arms to the sides, moved a caught strand of hair as if it mattered, saw the shape of her breast flattened by gravity under the sheet, carried her, as if it were she, down the steps. These men were never the same. They went out afterwards, as they always did, for a drink or two, but they could not meet each other's eyes. Their lives took a turn. One had nightmares, strange pains, impotence, depression. One did not like his work. His wife looked different, his kids. Even death seemed different to him, a place where she would be waiting. And one found himself standing at night in the doorway to a room of sleep, listening to a woman breathing, just an ordinary woman breathing.
All right, Ms. Olds, can you defend yourself against this?
Absolutely. See, again, I don't understand where all these accusations are coming from, because it is not a self-absorbed poetry.
Well, Your Honor, I'd like to object here.
No,
Order. Ms. Olds, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I was saying, this is just an example of what other people are feeling, and therefore it is a good justification of me having it in a poem, because it's just talking about what people will daily go through.
Personally, I see no point in this poem, actually.
And why is that?
Because it has virtually, I can't relate to it. I cannot say that other people also relate to it, because...
Well, there are people who can relate to it, though.
Now, Sharon Olds, do you have anything in your defense that you would like to read?
Actually, I do. I'd like to read a poem of mine called The End, if that's all right.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. We decided to have the abortion. Became killers together. The period that came changed nothing. They were dead, the young couple who had been for life as we talked out of it in bed. The crash was not a surprise. We went to the window, looked at the crushed cars and the gleaming curved shears of glass as if we had done it. Cops pulled the bodies out, bloody as birds from the small, smoking aperture of the door, laid them on the hill, covered them with blankets that soaked through. Blood began to pour down my legs into my slippers. I stood where I was until they shot the bound, formed into the black hole of the ambulance, and stood the other one up. Bandage covering its head, stain where the eyes had been. The next morning I had to kneel an hour on that floor to clean up my blood, rubbing with wet cloths at those glittering translucent spots, as one has to soak a long time to deglaze the pan when the feast is over.
Alright, thank you. Kardashian, do you have anything to say about that?
Yes, to be quite honest with you, Miss Olds, I can't consider that poetry. I think it's way too graphic. I don't think there's a wide range of audience that could relate to the subject matter. Therefore, I think it's a diary entry more than it is a poem.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled. Please proceed.
Second of all, you've been writing for over, 20 years now, Miss Olds, and I think all of your poems are just following the same boring journal rant. It all sounds like it's just, a diary entry. It all just sounds the same. There's no, a poem is supposed to be of higher communication. I don't see that at all in any of your poems. It's just static. There's nothing that I can relate to personally, and therefore that's the reason why I think it's more of a personal thing to you, like a journal entry, than it could relate to anybody else,
Thank you, Robert. Court is now in session for our second hearing with Robert Kardashian and Sharon Olds. Miss Olds, do you have any more evidence you would like to present?
I do. It is a poem I like to write, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
If you go to page 816 of your Getty's book, it is called, I Wanted to Be There When My Father Died. I wanted to be there when my father died because I wanted to see him die. And not just to know him down to the ground, the dirt of his unmaking, and not just to give him a last chance to give me something, or take his loathing back. All summer he had gagged as if trying to cough out his whole esophagus out. Surely his pain and depression had appeased me, and yet I wanted to see him die, not just to see no soul come, free of his body, no mucal genie spirit jump forth from his mouth, proving the body on earth is all we've got. I wanted to watch my father die because I hated him. Oh, I loved him. My hands cherished him, laying him out, but I had feared him so. His lying as if dead on the flower couch had pummeled me. His silence had mauled me. I was an Eve he took and pressed back into clay. Casual thumbs undoing the cheekbone, eye socket, rib, pelvis, ankle of the child, and now I watched him be undone. And someone in my gloried in it. Someone lying where he'd lain in chintz, Eden, some corpse girl. Corkscrewed like one of his ambers spits him. Smiled. The priest was well called to that room. Violet, gross-grained river of his ribbon laid down well on that bank of flesh, where the daughter of the death was made. It was well to say, into other hands than ours, we commend this spirit. Well, Honor, I like to say that the poem I just read, it is clearly a lot of emotion that Mr. Kardashian does not understand.
No, actually, I didn't say that your poems are not full of emotion. I'm just saying they're too personal. Actually, overgoing the limit of personal experience, which is why I think it makes it sound like a diary entry and not something that everybody can relate to.
I believe that I still have some readers. Maybe not many, but some extreme readers and followers.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me a great poet regardless of what your thoughts are about me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sharon, Robert, thank you. That'll be all for the hearing. And we will now let the jury decide the fate of Miss Olds.